Zoots is a dry cleaner, a prominent dry cleaner in New England. They have 17 different locations, and they have a delivery service area that runs from New Hampshire through Massachusetts into Rhode Island. And so they're doing a lot of things right, but the marketing needed a little help. And what they didn't understand about their audience was the you. So their tagline, "It suits you," they weren't really understanding who you was. So they had a rough idea of the typical demographics, you know, female, highly educated, high household income, but they didn't really know why she was going to Zoots or other dry cleaners, what the motivation was behind the you.
So the first step in finding out the you was we developed a custom audience segmentation survey. They have 50,000 email addresses in their database, which is a nice thing to have when you're doing research for a client. It was a mix of current clients, lapsed customers who hadn't been with them for a while, and folks who were in their database and had opted in, but they had no transactional records for them ever having used the brand. So we had sort of a nice mix of folks. We sent out an email invitation to a custom-built survey, got the data in. We had over 2,000 responses, which means that we have good, quantitative, statistically reliable data for these attitudinal segments. And we started looking at what the segments told us.
We just got the client earlier this year along with Susan, and just wanted to show you a quick before of all their kind of marketing. You know, the perk, the green company, we had flood and water restoration, we had home delivery, and they were just trying out every single message and thinking that it was going to hit somebody, but really it wasn't targeted and it wasn't based on audience motivations.
So we did the research, and what we found out, first of all, is that they have 4 attitudinal segments. So these segments are determined based on what is important to folks and what's motivating them to purchase. Demographics and stuff like that do not even come into play in defining what these segments are. So very briefly, their out and about segment are folks that really like the stores, right? They're visiting the retail locations. Very important to them to have clean stores, friendly. They want the customer service folks to know their name and be very, sort of friendly with them. Remote access group there really like convenience too, but they don't want to talk to anybody. They don't want to see anybody. They want to handle everything online. They want pickup and delivery. They want drive-through at the locations. They want to manage their account remotely, pay online. That's what convenience is about for them. The third group, serious about quality. These folks are super picky. Buckles, pleats, like you can do my shirts, but you can't do my ball gowns. Super, super picky. And these folks have the highest incidence of saying they've had a problem with a dry cleaner. They've had a bad experience in the past, right? Company fans, this is a really interesting group for both of us because these people really like the brand. They like the company. They want to know that you're a Goodwill collection area and that you're sponsoring Little League in this town. So we have these attitudinal segments. Now, what we also learned was there are 2 segments for using dry cleaning in general. Regardless of what provider you pick, there's 2 reasons you use dry cleaning, at least among Zoots audiences. The first is we're calling necessary evil. These people wish they didn't have to use dry cleaning, but they're afraid they'll ruin their clothes if they try to take care of them themselves. So it's sort of a hold your nose and send in your dry cleaning kind of segment. The other group, pro-convenience, loves having a dry cleaner. Like they're laundering their shirts, they're washing their sheets. What we found out was that regardless of attitudinal segment in terms of deciding on a particular provider, each segment was split and had some of these folks who really were hold your nose and use it, and some of these folks who were like, I love my dry cleaner because they make my life so much easier. So that overlaid the attitudinal segments in terms of deciding on a particular provider, which was kind of interesting. We had segments by store, which was great because we asked everybody in the survey which location they use. So as you can see, the splits by store are really different, and that is helping with decisions from a local marketing standpoint and from an employee training standpoint as to what stores need to focus on. I showed something similar to this in the super targeting forum, but the demographics of the segments are really similar. Like there's one that is a little more male and there's one that is a little more wealthy, but the demographics are not driving who these people are and the decisions that they're making. It's motivations that are driving them. Zoots collects all this transactional data, so once we had everybody segmented, we were able to dump them back into the database and pull revenue value for each of the segments based on Zoots' own information. So now we not only had motivation and what was important to these people, but we also knew how much a typical remote access person was worth compared to a company fan. which is really helpful in deciding sort of who to focus on. The survey also yielded about 600 people that wanted to participate in a consumer insight panel ongoing with Zoots. We know their segment, so we can do creative testing, we can test promotional concepts and see which segments it's working for and which it isn't, or just segment a specific group. And if we're doing the whole population with 600, we've got quantitative information, reliable information coming out of that. So that was the data.
So this is kind of when the agency took back over and we created personas. And I think, as Susan had mentioned in her super target session, sometimes as agencies we just kind of do the best we can. But now we had actual, statistically valid data to make these personas around. So we picked pictures of people who we'd imagine, Susan is 49, she's from Wellesley, Mass. Well, we had up for the out and about customer, we had that data, and we also had what motivated her to use Zoots. And she really likes to go out into the stores, interact with people. She makes stopping at the dry cleaner part of her day. She's dropping off the kids, she's grabbing her coffee, she's going to the dry cleaner, she's interacting with people. So we got that detailed on each of the segments so that when we put together the creative brief and the strategy and sent the personas over to the clients, we all know who we're talking to. And we even have them broken up by towns because that was a way that Susan was able to find out which segments were, at most of the locations. So we decided, and then after, looking at all the segments and all the opportunities and also that 6-month value overlay, which was really important, we worked with the client on, a buying strategy and an acquisition, model. Who are we going to go after first? And we all agreed that the remote access. Now this is predominantly male, although it's female, but it has a higher male usage than other categories. And they also have the higher spend, and they're using dry cleaning more frequently. And it happened to tie in with what Zoots does well. So they already have a large delivery area, but they're looking to expand that. So this is a really natural place to start. And with a limited budget, we're only concentrating on 1 or 2 of the segments right now. We're not ignoring the other, 2 segments, but this way we can really focus our efforts in one spot. This is what we call a linkage map, and this is where we're linking up with our targets. And part of the survey results showed us where each segment was consuming their media. So for these 2 segments, a lot of it was online. So we're doing, targeted email campaigns actually for all 4 targets. We're we're able to provide the ad networks with very specific data so they can purchase, the online advertising in just the right spots. And we've done some delivery vans for them because these people are on the road a lot, and a social media program. And here's some of the creative. So we just wanted to show you you'd seen the before for a second. Here's some of the new creative that we're just launching now. And for instance, here's the website. Before, you could remember that it was kind of all over the place with a multitude of messaging. This is basically, you live life, we'll clean it up. And the strategy is just the Zoots is there to clean your clothes as you need it. Life is going to happen, and they'll be there to clean it up. And we have some custom slides on that homepage that will appeal to the various segments. So that was one way we're using the data. This is a rotating banner ad, and the first slide, grande latte, speed trap, coffee and lap, you can imagine. Hello Zoots. Zoots is there for you again when you're living life. And the last slide in the rotating banner says click to clean. So this is one that's going to be focused on the remote access users who like to do everything online. We are going to change out that slide for the out and about segment where it talks more about 17 convenient locations and stop by for our friendly service type of thing. And then here are just some other creative executions. And so here is Facebook and Twitter, and also the van, which we consider really a moving billboard, and some email campaigns. So it's showing you with a small budget how we can get out there in different ways and deliver the umbrella message and also the targeted messages.
So that's the case study. As I told you, we've got a full landing page at that URL that has a link to all the creative you've seen that's on the Zoots side. We've got a downloadable PDF that goes in much more detail to the research and has a lot of charts and graphs. That video there blew my mind because that's an operations guy. He's there talking about how they have these things taped up in their cubicles at work, and they're developing operational tactics and training and all of that kind of stuff for what they're doing with the research, which is really exciting. So I appreciate it very much.